and welcome to another episode of Geekly Recap, the podcast where two amazing cousins rant and rave about popular TV shows as we recap an episode a week.
Amazing cousins? I like that. If you've joined us before, you'll know we're currently delving into Marvel's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and this week we'll be discussing the penultimate episode.
It's hard to believe we're near the end.
I know, sad times, right?
We'll be recapping episode 5 scene by scene, pointing out things you may have missed while talking about the themes the show brings up and speculating on what the series, or is it season, finale will bring.
We'll also look at your comments and our poll results from our Twitter account. As always, if you've got something to say, we welcome your thoughts via social media at Geekly Recap Pod on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram.
You can also head to our website, geeklyrecap.weebly.com, and contact us through there, as well as signing up for our emails to make sure you never miss an episode.
Most importantly, hit that subscribe button now and let's get to work.
So, this episode, I think, for us, our episode I'm talking about, I'm interested now because I feel like for the first time, our listeners won't necessarily agree with us.
I think so.
Basing it on what people have said online.
I decided, because we briefly spoke about this yesterday, and when I say spoke, I mean we both left each other long voice messages. I haven't, for once, gone online to see what people think about this episode.
Oh, really?
So I only know partially know from what you told me. And I agree. I think people may see this a little controversial with how we feel. And I'm interested, because I don't want people to agree with me all the time. I mean, I know I'm right, but...
Well, yeah, that was the thing. I watched it before Harbour, and she was at work, and I was a lazy ass at home. And I watched it first, and I was like, I hope she's somehow gotten home and watched it. And she was like, I'm still out. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. And I was like, I'm leaving you a voice message. Just don't listen to it, because I needed to talk to someone. I didn't want to talk to my brother.
In my defense, it was the first week that the pubs were open. So the guys at work were like, okay, let's go for a few drinks. And it was someone's birthday. So I actually said to the guy whose birthday it was, hi, Nick, if you're listening. I said, I chose you over episode 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I'm actually disappointed that you didn't just have it on your phone and watch it while you're pretending to be part of it.
Just nodding along.
Exactly, every now and then sounding like you have Tourette's when you swear at John Walker or whatever it is. But it was an episode that I felt like I really had to talk about, and I went online to hope to get some validation. And everyone was like, oh my God, it was amazing. I was crying and all of this. And I'm like, did I watch something different?
I'm sorry. Crying at what?
I don't know.
I read so much about this episode prior to the episode. So for me, there was a whole lot of expectation on it. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a bad episode, because it wasn't a bad episode. I just felt like the pacing and the content of this episode, it shouldn't have been the penultimate.
Yeah.
For me, it was more of an episode 2 or an episode 3. I'd even accept it as episode 4, because what we had as episode 4, you would consider as maybe the penultimate to the finale.
For sure, yeah.
So for me, it just left me a little deflated. And with it being overhyped at, it was going to be emotional. We were going to have a cameo, which we did, and it was great. Mm-hmm. But even that was overhyped.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was one of the good things about WandaVision for me personally. I didn't listen to any of that stuff.
Me neither.
And my only research for it was after all of it had aired and we were preparing our podcast. And luckily, I had missed all the crazy, oh my God, they're going to have this and they're going to have that. Because I heard there was a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? I thought it was perfect. I absolutely loved that show. It didn't disappoint me at all, but I had no expectations. For me, I was thinking it's going to be one of those where it's just bam, 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 and not a bus. Bam, bam, bam. I'm going to be so hyped up for the finale. But it decided to have an explosion at the beginning and then completely slow it down, which I get was kind of necessary for the characters.
But not in episode 5.
Not at this point in the game. It just felt really, that whole boat repair, while I understand what they were going for, I was like, why? I don't care about this stuff. I get it. It was important for their bonding, but cut to something else while this is happening.
I mean, you guys can't obviously see me right now, but I'm nodding and like shaking my head and completely agreeing with Meryl. I enjoyed the montage to a certain point, and after a second time of viewing it, I just thought it went on too long. And then we had another bit on the boat, and you're like, this is going on too long. You've had a 60-minute episode, you know, obviously minus the credits, and you've chosen to do it this way, where it's basically just been all filler.
Mm-hmm.
Even the fight in the beginning probably shouldn't have been the first scene. If it was the first scene, then it should have been a lot more explosive than it was.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
It didn't set the tone for the rest of the episode.
I've watched TV shows where they had bad writing like this, and I apologize to these shows because I know they have big fans, but Smallville and Supernatural both had these problems where they would give you these really cool cliffhangers, right? And then the next episode, within the first 5 minutes, they'd basically tidied that all up. And now they were onto something else. And I'm like, but you built that up. I thought it was going to be a thing. After making John Walker this big moment at the end of episode 4, I was like, you've taken him down in the first 5 minutes of the episode. And now he's going back with his tail between his legs. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was basically out of most of the rest of the episode.
Obviously, they've not wrapped up his story. But if they take it in a way where his kind of arc just goes to an abrupt end, which I feel like it's actually come to. We've kind of blitzed through his whole story. And now, obviously, with the post-credit scene, you're like, oh, this is what's going to happen. But that's not necessarily going to happen in the final episode. And now I feel like they've actually thrown everything but the kitchen sink into the final. And it's a little disappointing because I'm not saying they're not going to do it well. But at this point, who knows where they're going with the Flag Smashers. But their story should have just been wrapped up by now.
Yeah. We both watch RuPaul's Drag Race, right? And we see Candy Muse. And we're like, why are you still there? That's how I felt about the Flag Smashers this episode.
How is she in the final? How are they both in the
Sashay
final?
away! We apologize in advance if we go through this whole episode and constantly complain. We agree there were definitely scenes on their own I actually really liked. It's just all together, for me, it didn't fit. But on their own, I actually thought some scenes were fantastically done.
Yeah, as I said before, it kind of just left me deflated. I felt a bit like John after he lost the fight and he felt weak.
John getting angry at the senator was me getting angry at this episode. Oh my God, I've never related to John more.
Yes. On that note, shall we actually begin?
Yes, we shall.
It's called Truth. Also directed by Carrie Scogland.
It was also written by, and I'm sorry if I get the name wrong because there's no doubt I'm going to get this wrong, Dallin Masan. He's known for writing the sequel to Iron Sky. That's all he's really done, which explains a lot. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop complaining. And I did want to say, actually, the title, it was taken from the Truth Red, White and Black comic series, miniseries, about Isaiah Bradley.
Because we've mentioned this before in the previous episodes as well. So it's good to know that they did refer back to it.
Yeah. So, if you guys remember how the last episode ended, I mean, how could you forget?
I mean, we haven't stopped talking about it.
Every picture we've posted is basically that, or him going
I hope
mental.
you've been following us on Instagram.
John Walker killed a flag smasher called Nico brutally in front of everybody, and they were recording him, and Sam and Bucky saw, as well as Carly.
Meryl had a problem with how late Sam and Bucky got there.
Yes.
Did you guys have an answer for that?
Why did you remind me? I'd gotten over it and now I'm bothered again. Well, you know what? It was one of those stupid things. Because when we were watching it, if you guys remember, last week, I made a prediction of how the episode would begin and even how it ended. But anyway.
They really did not take your advice on board.
I was hoping it was going to be what I imagined. And then it didn't show that at all. I went, okay, let's see what they chose to do. So maybe that was part of the reason I didn't like the episode. Maybe I was like, no, you're meant to do it the way I said.
It starts with him running, right? And what I loved about this is the shot was done in a way where he's coming to, which is similar to what you kind of said you wanted to see happen, where he snaps out of it in the square.
I suppose. Well, yeah.
But I like the way the shots were done, you know, the whole blurry aspect.
He was having kind of flashbacks to stuff that he'd said with Lamar. He didn't, obviously you find out in this scene that he doesn't necessarily feel any remorse for what he actually did, but he does feel bad about not listening to Lamar.
I'm just going to say it right here. I told you so.
He's still not Homelander. Not yet.
Just saying it. You heard it first, right here.
I was so disappointed in him. I'm all just watching this show going, oh, John, John, John. How was Lamar ever his friend? You know, that's why it bothers me, because I get that he's meant to go to this dark place, I guess. But I'm like, but you've got this wife that clearly is a sensible person, and you've got Lamar, who was a sensible friend. So they clearly saw something in him.
Even Lamar's parents echo this.
Yeah, although I got the feeling, we'll get to it, but his sister didn't look that.
Oh, I'm glad you spotted that as well.
Oh, yeah. We always notice what the women are doing. I'm like, yeah, she doesn't see through that asshole to me. He's probably tried hitting on her in the past and she said, F off. But yeah, so he's gone to this place and he's having these flashbacks and he's kind of saying, why didn't I listen to you, right?
Yeah, he was like, you told me. And then you hear the echo of Lamar say you consistently make the right decisions. And you're like, your brothers in arms at the end of the day. And kind of like how Io was when she came back and she's feeling the guilt because of T'Challa. It's like, well, he died on my watch. I've got this on my conscience.
You mean T'Chaka?
What did I say?
T'Challa.
Oh, yeah, sorry. T'Chaka. Well, at least we're saying it right this time.
I know, but that's because I didn't have to say king first. There was a really beautiful shot, actually, where he's kind of crying. I'll say crying. He wasn't crying, but crying into the shield. And he kind of sorts himself up.
Composes himself.
And he says, time to go to work, which is what Lamar had said to him in episode 2.
Yes.
So... And that's when Bucky and Sam turn up.
I felt like John's joke was kind of out of place here. I didn't know what I made of it. When he says, you guys should see a medic, you don't look so good. I don't know whether it's his attempt to, like, lighten the mood, but...
I don't think he was lightening the mood. I think he was just being a dick again.
Mate, it just felt a bit out of place to me. I guess because you just said we saw this beautiful shot where he's composing himself, what just happened. That line just seemed out of sorts.
But that's because the moment where he's crying or whatever he was doing, that's for us. That's like, you know, in Shakespeare, that would be his soliloquy. That's purely for us.
Yeah.
But in front of them, he's not going to show them that side of him. No way.
But then you being that person at this stage, whether you feel remorse or not, you should surely act it.
He doesn't feel close to them. He's constantly on the defense when it comes to Sam and Bucky. You know, which is why the moment they mentioned him giving back the shield, I mean, I was like, all right, Gollum.
I'm just eye rolled.
Because he immediately was suspicious. You know, he was like, so you're pretending to care, but really that's what you were here for the whole time. So he doesn't want to let down his guard with these guys because he doesn't believe their intentions towards them are good anyway.
I'm still eye rolling.
Why are you expecting him to be all, hold me? He wasn't going to ask them for any help.
No, he wasn't. But it's like, because he goes on to say, you know, you saw, I had to do it. You know, it's what I had to do. He could have literally started off saying that. I just felt that.
No, you're right. You're right. But when Sam started doing his, you know, therapy that he does really well, right? He almost got through to John.
He did.
You could have waited like a few more minutes before you asked for the shield, mate. Because this guy, you've seen him. He flips immediately.
Yeah. It is a flicker switch.
Yeah, it's obvious right now that he's got this extra strength running through his veins. He's going to be all hyped up. He just killed somebody. You know?
He's still on that adrenaline rush.
Obviously, this had to happen for the narrative for the show. But I thought Sam was smarter than that. I would have preferred that line to come out of Bucky's mouth, like someone who's not ready to talk to somebody. You know, and Sam should have been a bit like, you know, trying to stop him from saying it. But unfortunately, it came out of Sam's mouth.
No.
See, the writer, he only wrote Iron Sky. What does he know? I'm not gonna let it go.
This turned catty.
Oh, there is also a line where Bucky tells him, he tries to also do the little relate thing, right? And he goes, don't go down this path. And then what does John say? I'm not like you.
Exactly. And he spits it out. It is understandable. I'm not going to pretend it's not, because we see it with Isaiah when he finally sees Bucky as well.
Yeah, and you know, you have to remember that the most of the world don't see Bucky the way we have seen
because
him.
All they've seen is the Winter Soldier. As you said, you've just killed a person, mate. Like, you know, and you've got the cheek to say that to someone.
But he doesn't feel anything bad about it. He's like, that was a bad guy and that's what you do when they're bad.
you're right, because he's so defensive and he's so on the ball with like going, I killed who killed Lamar. It's like, no, you didn't. She's still on the run. His way of reasoning with himself and with everyone else is to say he killed the right person because he can't accept the fact that the right person's gone.
But when they tell him he didn't do it or whatever, he kind of rolls his eyes. Like, that's not enough of a reason. Like, he's one of them. He might as well have been the one that did it.
This would probably go hand in hand with a situation in Afghanistan, because obviously we still don't know exactly what he did.
We probably never will.
We know because, you know, this is real life. He's killed innocent people. But to him and his way of reasoning and go, let's say, for example, it's Al-Qaeda. Well, they're still part of Al-Qaeda. Whether it was him that killed Lamar or someone else, they're all exactly the same.
They're all the same, yeah. And in a way, I'm not saying he's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
They're terrorists, and yeah, all of them could have been apprehended, but it's the way he did it. I'm not saying go and kill them somewhere privately either, but if that's the way you're going,
exactly.
Make sure you drag him somewhere no one's going to see it.
Like in the warehouse where they're in right now. I did love the way the camera would just slowly pan to a close-up of the bloodied shield. It was done selectively in a few ways, and I was like, I love that they're reminding you, whatever they're talking about, you just see a slow pan. It's a way of reminding us, like the viewers, you know, this is the cap. Bleep is about to go down.
Bleep is about to go down, and it does. They start to fight. Now, I did like the flight. Well, there was some flighting in it.
Yeah.
But I did like the scene. It felt on the smaller side considering what we've seen in the past.
Yes.
You know, we've had the air fight, we've had the truck fight.
Yeah. And even the Flag Smashers fight, the way that was choreographed. I know there was a lot more of them, so it's always going to look a bit arty and whatnot. And I understand there's only 3 of them, but I do feel like it could have been done so much better. I'd still enjoyed it. I enjoyed it much more on a second viewing, but it still felt a little lackluster.
Maybe it was meant to. I mean, maybe it was to...
Maybe it's because neither of them really wanted to be in that situation.
Maybe it was just, maybe, I think, maybe. Stop saying maybe. Maybe.
Don't really want to know.
What are you singing?
Oasis. How John's garden grows and Falcon just wants to fly.
I was thinking, those aren't the lyrics. I was like, I don't know this song. But
it's Live Forever, if you don't know, by Oasis.
It was to show just the brutality of John Walker. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't an arty fight. It was pretty much just a scramble to get this bloody shield. Literally a bloody shield.
Literally.
And also to show, obviously, that Falcon isn't strong enough to even be in the fight.
We commented on a post on Instagram. Someone actually, I think it was on a Marvel post, someone said John's actually stronger than Steve. Like the serum that they've done now is stronger than Steve. I don't know if this is true. His comment said that this is what they said at San Diego Comic-Con. So if anyone's listening and they were there and heard this, you know, you can confirm.
Yeah.
But at no point in the show have they said he is, or even implied that this serum is anyway better for strength. Obviously, Dr. Nagel said it was better. I was trying to see whether maybe I could see it in the fight between him and Bucky.
I guess you could a little bit,
but he's also a bigger guy.
Yesterday, I sent Harver a clip of someone had like written down a sort of narrated a story that happened in the comics between Steve and John back in one of the comics, I don't know which one, where they had a fight and Steve kind of won, but just about won. Like they were almost pretty much matched to each other.
Yeah.
And when I read further, it was kind of suggesting that, well, I think I said it to you as well, is that the edge goes to John purely because he is brutal.
And this is acknowledged as well.
So I think that in this scene, the fact that John was tougher or appeared tougher was purely because he would have killed them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you see it with the way he flings Bucky everywhere. And
he was gonna hit Sam over the head with the shield too.
Yeah. So, Sam was definitely on his way out.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have that voice of reasoning. which is why I guess Lamar was that person. He's got nothing in his head that can stop him from making, you know, that right choice.
He's the dark version of Pinocchio. He's missing his Jiminy.
You had to bring up Pinocchio. You know I'm scared of that kid. I was a child and I was scared and I've not gone back to
This is coming from a girl who's like watched Nightmare on Elm Street since she was 4 or whatever. Watch Pinocchio!
Hey, Freddy is just misunderstood, okay?
There was a point during this fight where I was like, oh, just break his arm off. They did it!
Oh my God.
So I guess the writer does do some things right.
Hey, and we asked this question at the end of our previous episode. We were like, is the government just going to take it away from him or is he going to hand it back? And I said to you, I bet he's going to run away. And he did.
Yeah.
He's like, nope, this is mine. So long.
But I did read that in the comics that he had a more dire arm injury and a leg.
Yeah, so he was in a wheelchair, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in a wheelchair.
Instead of dick.
And still able to fight. I'm like, what? I want to see that version. They should have broken a leg too. I wanted to see what would happen.
There's still time.
So, yeah, in the end, they do manage to knock him out.
Bucky throws in the shield, doesn't he? Grabs the shield.
Yeah, and he puts it next to Sam, like, still, like, take your shield.
I thought it was a bit of an emotional scene with him just grabbing it and wiping the blood away. And because he knows this isn't what Steve wanted. But the next scene, we see the GRC are basically raiding all their camps and arresting the, I was going to say refugees, but what are they actually referred to?
Who cares? They're refugees. They call them refugees too. It's only them that don't call themselves refugees. Yeah.
Sam tells Bucky that she's gone.
Yeah, Torres walks in and Bucky just kind of doesn't say anything. Not even a hello. Not even a grunt.
Just ignores him. But yeah, he says she's gone like underground. There's no way of finding her.
Yeah, and folks higher up are now taking over the case. So now it's just a case of sit and wait, I guess.
Yeah, they've lost jurisdiction on this.
And Torres says sometimes there's nothing to do until there's something to do.
He's never been more wise, has he?
Sam picks up the shield, which is now clean. And he leaves the wings to Torres.
Which, you know, I think this signifies, one, the transition to Captain America. Whether that be with wings or not, I guess we'll find out. But we did mention in episode 1 where Torres in the comics does actually become Falcon.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not in the show, but we may not even see Torres again, but they're now his.
Yeah.
So the next scene, John has returned home. He's in Washington. And there's all these reporters and, you know, basically he's gone to like his...
This is a court hearing, basically, isn't it?
I guess. And he's wearing his army clothes.
He's being papped like he's a celebrity, which he technically is now.
Yeah. But I really wished that there was a bit more of a thing about the public and how they perceived him.
We saw in Madripoor Bucky and Sam being filmed and Zemo. Fair enough, we can kind of let that slide because of what happened in episode 4. But episode 4 ended with him being filmed.
And it was called The Whole World Is Watching.
Exactly. So for them to not even acknowledge the fact of how he's now being perceived, not only by the Americans, but around the world and the public.
Yeah, so I took a quote of what the senator says. And he says, John F. Walker, it is the order of this council that you are no longer to act in any capacity as a representative of the United States government or its military. You are hereby stripped of your title and authority as Captain America, effective immediately.
It was bound to happen. They're basically taking everything away from him. And they pretty much also say that you've come off lightly. And Walker gets angry because he's not being heard. He says, I understand that. I lived my life by your mandates. I dedicated my life to your mandates. I only ever did what you asked of me, what you told me to be and trained me to do, and I did it, and I did it well. And that was the first time I felt, or the second time that I felt, like I connected with John, and I understood where he was coming from, because we've been saying all along that the government has controlled him.
Yeah, he's basically saying, I've been the perfect soldier.
Yeah. And what more do you want from me now that I've been the perfect soldier? That wasn't good enough for you as Captain America. When did the rules change, I guess?
Well, you know, this is just another sign that he never truly understood what it was to be Captain America.
And like you said, they just probably wanted a face.
They were like, oh, he's good on paper.
But I understand where he's coming from.
I get it too.
In that scene.
You know, I
connected with his character.
Yeah, I understood him. And plus, he really, in this scene, was the first time I thought, God, he really does look like his dad.
Yeah, he does.
He really does. They basically take away all his benefits.
Everything,
yeah. Been in
no
the
rank
army.
and retirement. He's basically being erased. But he's lucky that this is all he's getting. Any other person wouldn't just walk away.
Yeah, but he says to them, right, he's like, I am Captain America. And they're like, not anymore.
Yeah. Well, he also says, you built me, which is true.
But I read that in the comics, he killed, you remember you mentioned those watchdogs?
The watchdogs, yeah.
Yeah, he killed one of them because they killed his parents. So, you know, you kind of have to let him off for that one. That one I would have been like, all right, they did kill your mum and dad.
I'm Batman.
But they didn't. They didn't strip him of his title.
They covered it up.
I mean, I read he's being punished a lot harsher than someone in power would get punished.
Definitely.
Which is kind of unfair, but I guess it's to, again, move the story along. So, yeah, they have to get their narrative.
It's a little sad. It is a little sad just because I expected more. Now that we know he's been stripped as Cap and we expected it to happen. And now just even thinking about it, I just almost wish I got a bit more of him as Cap. We didn't even get a full episode of him as Captain America.
I kind of wish I got an opportunity to see him pull it off.
Or even snippets of him pulling off, because I don't even feel like I got that.
A montage of that.
But he walks out and he tells his wife.
We see his wife again, and she seems like a sensible person who is genuinely upset for him.
His childhood sweetheart, right?
Yeah, I think so. At least
high
school sweetheart. Yeah. And so this is the thing. You don't surround him with really good people and expect him to just be this villain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's obviously that side to him that we haven't seen.
And I know that the whole point is, I guess he's meant to be the guy you don't root for, but
you still got to see what makes him good. There is good in there.
Yeah,
you have to see it,
and especially when it's been there in tiny, tiny little ways. I'm like, no, I want more. It's such a shame because I feel like even like 10 episodes would have been it would have been fantastic. And they could have spent time being slow because it would have been fine. They were moving the story as far as character development. I would have been down for that. So I don't know who to blame for the 6 episodes.
I don't know whether it was a Disney thing and funding. I almost want to switch them around and like watch this as episode 2, episode 3.
It would be really weird though.
I know. Can I edit it myself?
You can do whatever you like.
That's it. I'm editing it myself.
John is holding one of his medals of honor, I guess. And yeah, his wife's kind of trying to get him to focus on what's important right now because he's sort of like, I'm not just going to disappear.
Or they don't know what it takes to be Captain America.
Yeah. And you're like, you don't either.
No.
Whatever.
So she tells him, take things one thing at a time and maybe start with visiting Lamar's parents. And I would have thought he'd have already seen them. So that's something.
He's too busy self-obsessing.
Yeah. And then cue the cameo.
I know. Which I know, like, from reading people's responses, some people were probably like, who?
For me, I was cheering.
Yeah, I was like, Julia!
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is probably most famous for being Elaine in Seinfeld. She's fantastic. Probably one of the best.
You can't see me, I'm doing the gif.
She's one of the best female comedy actresses. She actually just cracks me up all the time. I loved her as Elaine. And she's also starred in Veep, which is another hilarious comedy where she's playing a really, really bad vice president.
Which I've still yet to watch.
Oh my God, you have to watch it. It is really funny. It is really funny. It's really ridiculous.
So it's great to see her in this role because I still feel like she's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you can see why she kind of got used because she was able to deliver everything in a really likable way. Like, she was fantastic. Just the way she introduced herself cracked me up. She was like, call me Val, but don't call me Val.
This is only in your head.
But yeah, she apparently was someone. I love her name. Contessa. It's like, it kind of reminded me of Princess Consuelo.
She ended with banana hammock.
Oh yeah, Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. That's the best name ever.
So she was created by Jim Steranko, I think it's how it's pronounced, and first appeared in 1967's Strange Tales, issue 159. She actually trained as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and was a love interest of Nick Fury. So you can kind of see similarities there as well, I think, because in this scene, it's almost like she's trying to recruit John. She fought for leadership over S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Femme Force group alongside Sharon Carter, I believe. And we find out in the comics that she'd also been a Russian sleeper agent.
Yeah.
Which is drawing connections to Natasha Romanoff. And I didn't know this, but she is or was supposed to be in Black Widow.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. So that's why we were first meant to meet her. She's not credited on IMDb for being in it, but it doesn't mean she's not in it. So
exactly. It might mean they cut it out because they've now introduced her, depending how big or small her role was. In the comics, it happened again where it actually turned out she was one of Marvel's many characters, apparently, who were temporarily replaced by the Skrulls.
But I mean, she's been part of Hydra as well.
Yes. Like, she was known as Madame Hydra?
Madame Hydra. I'm like, I mean, literally the Madame of Hydra. But, you know, I could see it. I'm like, it makes sense that it was Julia.
I could see her controlling a lot of people.
I actually want a whole spin-off. Like, I'd be in support. But, yeah, she's done, like, double agenting kind of stuff, hasn't she? And I think her character in the comics is actually currently in jail. I don't know, maybe I knew about this before, but I'd blocked it out, because the character has appeared before in a movie called Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., starring David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury.
What?
I want to watch it. It was made in 1998.
Oh, clearly.
And Lisa Rinna is playing Valentina. But I'm like, I need to watch this film. It sounds like it's going to be so bad.
But so good.
I hope so. I hope it's not just bad.
So good.
I also read they're kind of feeling that she's putting together a team of like dark Avengers, which is why she's recruiting.
Yes.
And I was looking it up because I don't know that much about the Dark Avengers or Thunderbolts. And there was a lot and I was like, I can't read it all. So guys, feel free to look this up because there was a lot of information. But one of the team members was Bullseye from Daredevil. And I was like, how cool would it be if they could get that actor back from season 3 of Daredevil?
He was brilliant.
His name was Wilson Bethel. Wilson Bethel, please, just let them know that you're interested because he was so good. And we'd only just found out he was Bullseye.
I know, which is what annoyed me a lot more when we found out it got cancelled. So was Bullseye a member of the Dark Avengers?
Yeah.
Because fun fact, a member of the Thunderbolts included the Punisher.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, they need to make this stuff happen.
The Thunderbolts was actually set up by General Ross, which I have mentioned before. And he is also confirmed to appear in Black Widow. So I wonder whether we're going to see both of them together.
Oh, that'd be cool. Basically, she turns up. Sorry, we didn't actually mention what happens in the scene. Which
but we got way too excited about her character.
She sounds like a really cool character. Like, I actually seriously do want to see more of this person.
I'm sorry, just the way she rocked up with her heels clacking.
I know.
She's so fabulous.
These boots are not made for walking.
Sounds like something I would say.
But if I said it, and then I'd laugh at myself and no one else would.
So cheesy.
But she said it and it worked. I was like, how are you this cool?
She pulls it off.
But she sits in the middle of them.
Yeah, basically like scooch over, love.
Yeah, exactly. And she kind of also covers it so she's talking to John. She's not talking to the wife. Occasionally she kind of strokes her ego by saying how fabulous she is.
And that the best decision he made was to marry her.
Yeah, along with that. Yeah. And she gives them a business card. I don't know if there's meant to be like you turn off lights and you can see it or whether it was just literally a piece of paper. I kind of just want it to be a piece of paper.
I hope it's just blank.
But one side was dark and one side was light. So it makes me wonder whether there's something to that card. Maybe it'll become activated when she calls. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, she kind of gets in with him, right? Like, oh, I would have killed him too. And, you know, and then she says, oh, but they have to cover their own asses. So which is why they're doing this to you. And she's like, oh, I know about the serum, and she knows about the shield.
Yeah, because he was a bit surprised by that. And she says, you know, taking the serum, like, I'm glad you did it, or it was the right choice.
And she says, because you become valuable to some people.
Well, to certain people.
And some people were saying, oh, is it the power broker? But I'm like, no, I think this is something completely different.
Before I realised she was kind of recruiting him, I thought, hang on a minute, is she the power broker?
Yeah, a lot of people were asking if she was the power broker too.
I don't think she is, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Just to clarify that, I don't think she is.
And she also says that he shouldn't worry about the shield because it's not really government property. There's a legal grey area.
There's so much black, white and grey in this.
Did you read about the... because I was like, that's too much.
I read some.
But it is from the pages of the Marvel Comics, but not going to go into it. It was a lot.
I'm not going into it.
So she's going to call him. And I was kind of hoping that would happen at the end of this episode.
They could have easily had 2 post-credit scenes. It would have made sense for it to be the mid-credit sequence is John gets a phone call, and the last one is him making the damn shield. Spoiler alert.
I don't think those two things are linked. I think right now he's still working on his own. I don't think that's anything to do with them calling him.
He's a nomad. He's doing what Steve did in the comics.
Yeah, but worse.
Yeah, but he's turning into the US agent, right?
Yeah.
The Vintage Valkyrie is an amazing little shop that can be found on Etsy. The super lovely owner makes handcrafted jewellery and cards inspired by films, TV, books and games, and she's appeared at a major Comic-Con here in London.
She's just made a Captain America shield greeting card, which looks amazing, and she's uploaded it to her shop, so go check it out.
She's even made a Captain America bracelet. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
She makes other pieces too, inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, Back to the Future, including the flux capacitor earrings, which we both own.
Yes.
Final Fantasy, Harry Potter, and much more. You can find them all there for your geeky needs, or your friend's geeky needs, or your girlfriend's geeky needs, whoever needs them. Treat yourself.
What's great is that she's also open to custom pieces, so we highly recommend her shop. She's talented and puts her heart and soul into each and every piece, so defo check out her shop, The Vintage Valkyrie, on Etsy, and make sure you shop small.
It's important to help these businesses out, especially in times like these. And as a little gift from us and The Vintage Valkyrie, you can receive a 10% discount on the shop now if you use the promo code GeeklyRecap in capitals.
Woo! So in the next scene, we see the GRC camp, the one that we've basically seen throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
And Carly's there with a few other flag smashers.
They've just returned, yeah.
Yeah, everything's been left behind. They've realised no one's here. I just had a comment here saying, usually when a crime has been committed or a murder has been committed, police officers say or detectives say that the murderer usually goes back to the scene of the crime. For me, I felt like the flag smashers went back to the scene of the crime. How does no one know she's there? Why isn't anyone got eyes on the building?
Well, this is my problem with the whole flag smasher thing. I mean, you could blame it on Latvia, but I don't think Latvia would be that rubbish.
No, it's not. It's the writing there was off, let's be honest.
I'm sorry, but the writing is wrong.
We can't always say, oh, it's a show, it's not realistic. But even in a show, it's realistic to know, we know she's gone underground. She's being looked at from everyone.
She's not even wearing like this. I said this to you yesterday.
You were like, her red hair would be spotted by
Hello,
miles.
it's not like she looks like everybody else.
Yeah.
She can't blend. All right, at least like do the Avenger thing and wear a flipping cap with sunglasses or something.
But yeah, that bothered me a bit. Just that there was literally no one there to spot her.
It's not like they came through the manhole to get in either. They just walked in.
But Dovich reads that the camp has actually been shut because they were harbouring fugitives, apparently.
Which is true. They were harbouring them.
Yeah. Obviously, Carly doesn't like to hear that, does she?
And she says, I'm going to do it in a voice. How many times do we have to pay with our lives just to be... I can't even read my handwriting. To be citizens of this goddamn planet.
And I wrote, maybe when you stop killing and attacking others. Like, no one's going to accept you for who you are if you're going around killing people. I really hope her team, or Dovich anyway, turns against her.
But they're still not like saying anything. I remember watching the scene for the first time and I'm like, is no one going to go, that's dumb?
And because obviously these are the people closest to her. You know, we see later on in the park, she's got, you know, the whole public basically.
But it's clearly not a democracy amongst them because she's the only one calling the shots. Why are they just blindly listening? Do they speak English?
Super soldier or not, I would smack her. Shut up, you child. Knowing me, I'd be the one flying, but still.
I don't want to badmouth the actress who's playing Carly. I forgot her name. But
Erin Kellerman.
Okay.
I think.
I'm not saying she's bad, but I am going to say that she is definitely not charismatic enough to carry this character. When she delivers her lines, there's no power to them whatsoever.
It started better and I thought we were going to get, and maybe some of it's due to the writing, I thought maybe we were going to get a bit of progression. But I agree, she is also not charismatic enough. It's nice to see an English girl in this role, but
there's a reason they don't use women from this part of England.
I do feel like we could have had a better actress.
I know.
But again, at the same time, it's not all on her. It's the writing as well.
It's the writing, but like if Wyatt Russell can make it work, Carly should be able to.
I felt like I would have been good as Carly.
Oh my God, you would have been diabolical.
I'm so scared about what you were going to say.
You would be like evil.
I've got some brute force.
You've got the rage thing down for sure.
I could have been John Walker.
That's your next cosplay.
Oh man.
Me and Harvard, we've done the sort of old-fashioned Bucky and
the 40s, 50s,
but
pin-up.
Female versions. Yeah, it'd be really cool to update it, like have like that Falcon and Winter Soldier and I don't know how you do Walker.
Well, just the bloody shield, right?
Sorry, I was thinking a bloody purse. But yeah, I think US Agent or whatever he's called will be a good cosplay, even if people would want to spit on you. But it's hard I can't do it. Not as I am as a man. I mean, I'm not a man, so I couldn't do it. That's what I mean.
As I am as a man.
I can't do him as a man. Like, I don't have the height, so I can't even like just butch myself up. I'd look like an idiot.
I love it when we play around with the gender roles, and I think I've cosplayed more male characters than female.
Well, they're always cooler. Let's face it, they just are.
But yeah, I cosplayed as Punisher. I spent hours making that armor.
And then he wasn't even there to appreciate
he
it.
Cancelled. But I did get to meet Ben Barnes out of it, and he loved it. So my day and my whole year was made.
Oh yeah, but that's because, I mean, he was looking at you with those eyes.
I could feel the heat coming out of my head.
I'm so glad you said head.
So I walked up to meet him before my photo shoot and get his autograph, and he was taking his time with everyone. Bearing in mind this is one of the hottest days of the year, and I'm in like this armor, and Meryl was like, "Oh, I'll come with you to meet him." And our friend
I was
Carla,
rubbish because I just stood in the back. I couldn't talk to him.
Our friend Carla, who's listening, hi Carla, and Jeremy, they both had a talk that they wanted to go to.
But Carla stayed with us because she had to be around the pretty.
And you two just basically stared at me talking to Ben the whole time.
Carla and I were basically like the two friends in the back giggling because he was so cute. I mean, heat was coming out of me too.
But yes, men are cooler to cosplay.
Yeah, that was the point we were trying to make.
I mean, we've done badass women as well.
Yeah, but men, there's just more choice with the men, so that's why it's fun to gender bend them up a little bit and make them girl versions for ourselves. And that was fun, our Captain America and Bucky, because that's when we met Sebastian Stan, so.
Oh my God, yeah. And we're still on for the 80s one.
Oh, yes! And we've got a friend that we've been trying to get to do Falcon, but we'll see if that happens.
Yeah. We hope.
Unless someone else listening wants to be our Falcon.
Yes.
Okay, so next scene. We're in Sokovia.
By the memorial.
Mm-hmm. Zemo's by a statue with like a family crest on it. I'm assuming that was for his family.
I think so. He's rich enough to make one.
Exactly. And Bucky appears and Zemo tells him that he's decided he's not going to kill him.
At this stage, you're kind of like, well, are you pulling our legs? because you just don't know which way Zemo's going to go. But I took this to be genuine.
Yeah, I took it to be genuine, and it was a nice moment, but I was a bit disappointed just because I was hoping for more from Zemo.
Just going back to what we said about the Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers, at one point in the comics, Zemo actually is the leader of the Thunderbolts. So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, he's not being killed in this scene. He's going to go to the raft, which we've seen before. So, you know, and it's been broken out of before, so who knows?
Which is why I brought it up, because you just don't know.
Hey, for all we know, I don't want to predict an ending again, but post-credit sequence, the new Dark Captain America might be the one bursting Zemo out at the end.
What?
It's not going to happen.
We can hope.
But I did want to say, because we did a poll last week and I was asking who do people think is the big bad for the season. So the poll results were 0% said Flag Smashers. Ha ha ha, you guys were wrong. Well, we'll see. Power Broker got 50% and Other got 50%. For the Other, I did say comment. It didn't get too many. One person said John Walker. And another option was from someone who tweeted us saying that even if they think the Power Broker will be revealed in the next episode, which unfortunately they were not.
Not that we're aware of.
Yeah. There will be another big villain. My bet is Zemo. And so I was like, oh, actually, you know what? I haven't thought about that after he became quite likable. And he said the show made him gain so much sympathy that there has to be a heavy twist. So yeah. I guess I was disappointed that didn't turn, because I did think, oh, I forgot of him as a threat because of how likable he became. Mm-hmm. But what if it turned out that he was behind everything? I don't think that's where they're going now.
Definitely not in this show. Not after the Wakandans have taken him.
Exactly. So,
which is why I would have actually preferred not to see him in this episode. When he out chapoed, I'd said to you, are we even going to see him in the series again? If this is the way he's gone out of the show...
I would have liked that at the very end, after everything's... Because obviously they're going to save the day or something, I'm assuming. So I would have liked that at the end.
The fact that he's basically left the show this way, you might as well have left him leave the show the way he did in the previous episode. I don't feel like this scene was actually needed.
Yeah. I get why it was needed, because they're trying to give Bucky his journey.
Yeah.
And that's nice. But I still would have preferred this at the very end if they were going to resolve that.
As a post-credit scene, it would have even worked.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was a nice moment, but...
It was a nice moment for Bucky, I agree with that.
It just didn't land exactly, because I feel like a lot of things, obviously, as we've made very clear, were not properly placed for us in this episode, so... But he does, again, tell Bucky, Carly has been radicalized beyond salvation. And he says, like, Sam's being stubborn like Steve Rogers was.
But I think this is why when Bucky repeats it to Sam, he understands. I think this is probably the only time where he goes, I'm trusting in Zemo, almost. What Zemo's saying here is correct.
I think, yeah, he's taking note of what Zemo says here. But he does also tell Zemo we're going to go another way, right? Because at this point, Bucky's putting his faith into Sam's choice. He's going to do whatever Sam wants them to do. But he is also letting Sam know, look, this might not go the easy way that you want it to. You may not be able to talk this girl down off this ledge.
There almost needs to be a plan B.
Exactly.
And then he pulls the gun out on Zemo.
He's fully accepting of it. He's not even going to fight it or anything.
He wanted it in Civil War.
No, the bullets are not in the gun.
And this signified a lot, not just for Bucky, but to prove to Zemo, I'm not what you all made me. I'm more than that.
Yeah.
That was the nice moment. What I like here, though, is that Zemo does tell him, I took the liberty of crossing my name out in your book.
Yeah. And he says he holds no grudges.
And then he says, goodbye, James. He called him James.
The Dora Milaje then turn up and they go to take him away. And
they took their time, didn't they?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I thought they would have already tracked. But then again, I don't know how much time has passed by this point.
You know how you were concerned, and so many viewers were, that the Dora Milaje didn't trust Bucky? I'd say this is a sign that they did, because they let him call the shots. They waited.
Yeah, they wait. Yeah, that's true.
Io says they'll take him to the raft and he'll live out his days there. That's what they think. And she also tells Bucky to basically not appear in Wakanda for a while. I guess people are quite angry.
Not
with him
everyone,
there.
yeah. As you said, this shows their trust from the Dora Milaje, but not necessarily the rest of Wakanda.
Yeah. Just before she leaves, he asks her for one more favor.
I wonder what it is.
Cut to Baltimore, Maryland. We see it's basically the neighborhood with Isaiah's house. His grandson is outside playing basketball, and Sam is carrying the shield again in that bag. He goes into the garden where Isaiah is watering his plants. Sam goes to take the shield out, and he says for him not to, and he says, "Those stars and stripes don't mean nothing good to me." This whole bit was quite heartbreaking for me. Like, I know some people were crying about other things, but I thought that this scene was probably the most emotional for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we've read about it in the comics, but for a lot of people, they probably didn't know much about Isaiah's past.
They should have been listening to our podcast, but whatever.
But it was different hearing it from him. And he's such a great actor. Did you get his name?
His name is Carl Lumbly. He's been in Alias, Men of Honor, Supergirl, Altered Carbon with Anthony Mackie, and Dr. Sleep.
He stole the show, I thought. In this scene, he just delivered it all perfectly.
There's a way in which he delivers his lines and as an actor, and it's almost like everything falls silent. Regardless of the story or not, you're so engaged to what he's saying, and I thought he did that perfectly.
And he's really subtle as well, but it's all there, like his emotion in his face. There were so many negative reviews about this episode, and I was so angry because, we've said negative things about this episode, but it's nothing to do with the political stuff.
Exactly.
That people have not been liking. They're like, oh, look at them trying to be woke.
They're not trying to be. This is a story that's been in the comics for years.
It's happening all around you every day.
And I get that sometimes you watching these shows is a form of escapism. But for me, in this show anyway, looking at the news, yes, it's in the story, but this is stuff that is actually in the comics. They haven't just gone, well, you know what, it's relevant, so let's stick it in there. None of it feels forced.
Like I said before, you've got one half of the cast is a black man in America. You can't pretend this stuff isn't a thing.
Exactly.
Especially when the story is about a black man taking a mantle that until now has always been associated with white America.
Exactly.
I remember reading a review that went, hello, America's had Barack Obama. Yeah, and then you got Donald Trump. You went like 10 steps forward and went, oh, progress. And then you went, no, that's too much. Now we want like someone who hates people from other countries. Like you can't act like America has progressed past this, just like Isaiah says in this. I mean, it's very sweet that Sam kind of wants to see the good, and he's like, oh, things are different. And he's like, no, it's not different. And he's right, and it's not. And if you're pretending that it is, or you don't want to see it and stuff, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to start opening your eyes.
In his words, what is it? He said, if you ain't bitter, then you're blind.
I mean, Sam's a guy that's just always been full of hope. He wants, like he says later to his sister, he always thought, I'm going to go out and change the world.
I said to you in the previous episode about my rant about the shield. It's because it's that symbol of hope. And I see Sam as the perfect candidate for it.
Definitely. There were fantastic moments in this episode that I found emotional. And not one of them was to do with the relationship between Bucky and Sam, but it was to do with the race stuff. Because I think that is just so important. And I don't think it's said enough. So if people have a problem, I'm sorry you have a problem, but you can't have this show and not address it. And I'm so glad they brought this story into it because I didn't know about Isaiah Bradley.
No. And I'm glad they gave us this. It's finding Sam's truth here. Yeah. It's finding his story. He knows what's happened in the past. He knows how Isaiah has been treated, and he doesn't agree with it. He also doesn't agree with Isaiah. And that's what I find is important. He's got to take what's happened and, he knows he's going to carry the world on his shoulders, but he's going to prove to Isaiah and everyone else who feels like Isaiah, including his own sister, that no, I can do this. We can do this. We can represent ourselves and America the way it should be done.
Exactly.
Sam says you could have been the next, and Isaiah interrupts him.
And he says the entire world's been chasing that great white hope since he first got dosed with that serum. Sam says he's not the reason you were in jail. You see Isaiah make a face, and I don't know about you, Harbour, but I was so concerned at that moment that we were going to see like something I didn't want to. No, not a fight. No, I was.
I'm like, poor Sam.
No, I was concerned that we were going to learn something that we didn't know about Steve.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's in that box? So I'm really glad that they never, they didn't sully Steve Rogers' name with anything. Because I was
Can you
actually
imagine they did that after the hate that John got?
Sam thinks, like we said before, he says, things could be different. Like, we should tell someone. And he says they will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
Which is a very strong statement. That hits Sam.
Yeah, because he says self-respecting.
Yeah.
So it makes Sam definitely think twice. He's like, are people going to hate me? Like, are the black community going to not want me to be Captain America?
But I think this lights a fire under his bum, basically, into proving him wrong.
Yeah, but he doesn't get there straight away. I think this puts him off it. I don't think he's ready yet. It is a huge responsibility.
Yeah, John.
So we're back in Louisiana. They're talking again about the boat. There's a lot of boat stuff in this episode, and I just want to glaze over the boat because I don't care.
I didn't hate the boat scene as much this time round. It just went on for too long. I didn't hate it. I loved the fact that we saw kind of jokey Bucky.
No, there was nothing wrong with it. It was just this position, like we said in the show.
Yeah.
I didn't have necessarily a problem with it, but they, like you said, they did have almost like 2 montages, and I'm like, that's too many. For me, it felt like too much.
Especially until we got any dialogue in the first one.
I just don't want to talk about the boat because they talked about it enough in the episode.
Wow. There are boat fanatics listening to this and they're disappointed. What I like, though, is them showing the whole family value in this small town. When Sam says, what did they owe? They owed their parents something. And you would think, oh, well, they could easily go, nah, I'm good. Every single person was like, the Wilson family needs us. Yeah.
It made me think of It's a Wonderful Life, where, if you remember, because you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Where George Bailey, obviously he's too proud and he never asks anyone for any help, but his wife does. And at the end of the movie, everyone turns up to give bits of money, and it makes me cry every time. So this was not an emotional scene like that, but it had that same sort of lovely small town, people chip in. This is where Sam comes from.
This is why he helps everyone.
Yeah, this is the kind of life he's led up until now. He's been quite lucky, and I want to go and live there. It sounds cool.
And we see it again in, the cheeky way. Bucky says to him, oh, I've got a flight to catch and a hotel. He's putting himself in there just waiting for Sam to go, yeah, you can stay. But he says, you can be wearing the tight T-shirts and... Dude, he's got a vibranium arm, and he's basically saying, no one here is going to judge you for who you are.
And also, you got to see Bucky be Bucky, because we haven't seen him be the flirty guy who thinks he can get any girl since the first movie.
Yeah.
He's been a bit preoccupied.
And he's comfortable.
Yeah, in the first movie, he was the one who got all the ladies. In fact, he didn't like it that Agent Carter didn't even see him. Yeah.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
This scene does deliver one of my favourite bits, though, and it was when, the pipe burst.
I mean, it's interesting to see that side of Bucky too, because it was basically a pipe burst or whatever. So Sam grabs a wrench and is trying to tighten it, and Bucky turns up. You're thinking he's obviously going to use his hand, and he grabs the wrench and uses his right hand like a normal human being. And Sam's like, why don't you use your metal arm? And he's like, I don't think about it first. And I told you he was right-handed.
He's right-handed.
Yeah, that was a cute scene. And it was nice that Bucky doesn't just go to the arm. Another thing that makes him very different to John Walker, who, despite having all the strength he now has, was still grabbing the shield like it was the only lifeline he had.
He wasn't actually throwing a punch.
That's all he did. Shield, shield, shield. I'm like, dude, you do know you can just use your hands now, right? Oh, you know what we didn't mention? Well, how silly are we? Before the pipe bursts, Bucky does deliver a case, which doesn't get opened.
Yeah, he says you can sign for it and I'll go.
And it's from Wakanda, which is the favor he asked for. But at this point, I mean, we still actually don't 100% know what's in the case. But at that point, you are like, oh, what's that? And then they get busy with the boat.
A suit, right?
I'm assuming it's his Captain Falcon suit. Captain America Falcon suit. So yeah, I'm assuming it's got the whole shebang. It's got the colors of Captain America.
You say shebang, I expect glitter.
Oh, well, there might be a little bit of glitter, but I don't know.
Little sparkle.
I want his eyes to sparkle, like instead of goggles, just glitter. A glitter mask on his face.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
That would be the version that Taste would do. Taste would do that version.
Yes.
Because, I mean, guys, if you don't know, on our Facebook, I did like a little meme of Taste from UK RuPaul's Drag Race, where he said, I can't remember the line, but about the nerve, the gumption, or whatever, which I'd use. And there were comments under it saying Taste would make a great Falcon, like cosplay. And I'm like, well, there you go, glitter it up.
I'm going to Instagram message her and be like, you need to do this.
I know, do the wings. Can you imagine? He'd make it amazing.
He would.
Maybe he could be our cosplay Falcon.
I would be living the dream if I'm cosplaying with Taste. But on the boat.
Blah, blah, montage.
Bucky says to Sam, do you think Carly will stop?
I'm trying to avoid blaming the writer again because I was like, why is that just slotted in this moment? Let's have a montage. By the way, what do you think of Carly? I don't know. We'll talk about it later. All right. Blah, blah, blah. Montage. And it was such a throwaway line, and they did it again later.
The thing is, there's nothing on the line. It's the placement.
I mean, it just made no sense. These are two guys that take that job very seriously. They're not just going to say it one line and then continue living their lives. But while they're having their little happy Louisiana, let's chill and fix a boat thing, John is telling Lamar's parents about what happened. I say this with quote marks because
he is lying.
Or either that or he's just completely convinced himself that Nico was the one behind it all, because he basically tells Lamar's parents that he stopped the guy who killed Lamar. I mean, obviously it's to make him look like the good guy, I guess, but it's also maybe in his head, he's giving them peace by telling them, yeah, I stopped the person who did it.
And he says, I hope you can find some peace in that.
Yeah. And, you know, the mum's all like, oh, he was so proud of you and all of that.
I mean, anyone seeing what he did, regardless of the fact if he killed the person that killed Lamar, at the end of the day, you've just seen what this guy has done. And in the heat of the moment, you're like, well, I'm going to kill the guy who killed my son. You know, I want him to find justice and whatnot. But do you actually think that they're happy with the way his potential murderer went out?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know.
That says a lot about them.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know whether it's just bad writing or whether it's to show you that up until this point, like I said before, everyone that we've seen surround John seems to be a good influence. So maybe that family has only ever really seen John as this good guy. And so in their heads, they have to believe that when he did what he did it for the right reasons. And it is giving them some peace to know that at least he stopped the person who hurt their son.
Mm-hmm.
He does leave and he's alone, so he didn't go with his wife. And he's walking along the streets. He doesn't need to wear a disguise either. Weird, considering I would want to punch him if I saw him.
Yeah, it's funny because everyone in the films just end up wearing a baseball cap and glasses. And in the show, no one does it.
He walks down the street and he sees that poster that was up of him when it said Cap is back. And yeah, I mean, he's still Captain America in his head.
But then we see Sharon on the phone. I didn't realise who she was talking to at first.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known either, but when I'm making notes, I put the subtitles on and it said Batroc. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
The fact that he was speaking French, I think, says a lot, but I didn't think.
So yeah, we do not know what the hell is going on in this moment. I mean, for people who've been suspicious of Sharon, this just makes them more suspicious.
Can I say I told you so again?
No, because you don't know yet, and I still don't. I don't know. I don't
trust the cow.
I refuse to believe that somehow she's now joined the dark side.
I think it's stupidly obvious and somewhat bad writing if she ends up being the villain.
Oh, she can't be. I would be really pissed off.
I don't know if she's the main No, I don't think she's the main villain.
No, I don't think she's even a villain.
But I do think she's screwing a lot of people over. And I don't necessarily think she's playing on the right side right now.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more going on and hopefully it will make some kind of sense. I really hope this guy is not writing episode 6.
No, it's Spellman, isn't it?
It must be.
I feel like he's the one wrapping it up.
Yeah, well, you better do a good job, Spellman.
She says she got his ass out of Algerian prison, basically.
She's also offering to pay him double or give him double So she clearly has used him before. Was it to do with the stuff at the beginning of the season? Was it to do with something else completely? We don't know. So we go back to Louisiana. And this was nice. And people did make, oh my gosh, she's going to sing every time. I'm not going to say Louisiana anymore. Yeah, this was nice. Bucky wakes up on the couch. He woke up on the couch. He wasn't sleeping on the floor.
Because he actually feels at home. That's what I got it to
take. He just needs a family. When the kids see that he's woken up, they put the shield down and he smiles. He smiles. He's so happy. Mm-hmm. And he looks at the shield on the floor and he goes back
Sam is so good for him.
He really is good for him. Yeah, they go back to the boat. I'm just going to skip over that.
They go back.
And then the shield training finally begins.
Yay! And he goes back and saying it feels weird. But then this time, instead of it saying it feels weird because it feels like it belongs to someone else, he just says it feels weird picking it up again after all this time.
Yeah, and then he says the legacy of the shield is complicated, to say the least.
Yeah.
And that's when we find out that Bucky knew, which we kind of figured because when he says goodbye to him in Endgame, you didn't get the feeling that he wasn't aware of what was going to happen.
Because a lot of people were annoyed. And I think initially watching it, I was a bit like, how is Bucky hard done by here? By the goodbye.
Yeah, I remember thinking, why the hell isn't Bucky like, oh, Steve's sitting on the bench? But clearly he knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And he apologizes for the fact that they didn't understand what it would mean for a black man to take on this mantle, basically.
Because he's given Sam a lot of stick as well throughout the whole of the series about why he gave up the shield.
Yeah, Bucky says that the shield was the closest thing that he had left to a family. So when Sam retired it, he felt like he had nothing. You're getting emotional now. I thought you said it wasn't emotional. Now what, you're going to cry on me?
Yeah, this bit was emotional. And Sam does kind of say to him, you can't just hold on to what Steve told you.
Yeah, I mean, he does say, like, it doesn't matter what Steve thought.
Bucky barely remembers much of, let's say, James from the 40s.
I think he remembers.
Well, he remembers, but it's like he barely lived a life.
But he still, I mean, he does remember it. It's just that Steve was the only link he had to that life. He's got no link to the past anymore, especially now that Steve's gone, wherever he's gone to.
They keep saying gone. That still leaves everything open to me.
To the moon.
To the moon.
But he does say to him, you've got to stop looking to other people to tell you who you are, which is such a nice thing to say as well. He's like, you want to climb out the hell you're in, do the work. And he says, like, you're avenging. You haven't been amending, you've been avenging.
Yeah.
And then he brings up that there's got to be one person on that list. And I'm like, well, obviously, if episode 6 doesn't have Yuri in it.
Yeah. We've got to see it.
I'm hoping Yuri just forgives him.
I hope so. I hope they don't do this off camera.
Yeah, I know. That'd be very disappointing because the fact
you
that
introduced him for
start
a reason.
With one, I'm like, well, if you don't bring in Yuri again, you're an idiot.
Yeah. I'm very happy that both of them can wield the shield very well.
I liked it as well because the scene, when they're talking, they're flinging the shield. And it felt a bit like, when parents and a child play catch.
Mm-hmm. It was better than them on the boat.
Oh my God. That was my problem with the moment where they talk about Carly. It happens again as a throwaway line after they've gone, yeah, this is great. Carly's not going to stop, or whatever he said. And I was like, really? You're just going to bring it up now?
Yeah.
I guess it was just so Bucky says, when you need me or whatever, let me know, or whatever it was.
So Sam goes to paint the boat.
Yeah, Sam goes to paint the boat. I noticed something. I know that obviously the boat is blue, but whenever something bad was going on, there was a lot of red. And whenever there was something good, there was a lot of blue. Very, lightsaber.
They're using visual cues here.
Lightsabers, I'm going with. Because, you have, even in Isaiah's house, the lamp was red.
Yes.
The curtains were red.
Yes.
And when the GRC is infiltrated or whatever, the lights go red.
Go red, yeah.
Then all the blue is around Louisiana, and even his sister's wearing blue, right? She's wearing blue and yellow. Really bright colours.
But this was a nice thing between them two as well. considering what she had said to Carly.
But she supports her brother as a mascot.
Exactly. You kind of needed the scene after what had happened with Isaiah.
He kind of says, like I'd said before, that, you know, he wanted to change the world. He mentions that that's what he always wanted to do. And he mentions, I always felt in your eyes that you just thought I was running away.
She said, there's a fight out there and here, and you've taken both on. So you're going to let Isaiah get into your head and let him decide what you do next. Like,
and he understands where Isaiah was coming from. He was like, if that happened to me, like, I would do the same, or I'd think the same way. But he knows himself, and he's always been a fighter for change. So he says, what would be the point of all the pain and sacrifice if I wasn't willing to stand up and keep fighting? And then he smiles.
You know what I love here? Is you hear his theme play. Right as he says that, and we go into the next scene.
Which was very rocky.
Yeah.
Sam's whole thing in this episode was, like, probably my favorite stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like this stuff because you're seeing him, even though obviously he can fight and he can do stuff, he's probably not quite at his peak. So it was important that he learns not only how to
it's
get
also
tougher
been a while
and faster,
since they've actually had a fight.
But he has to know how to wield the shield and not just fling it and grab it, but he needs to be able to fight while doing it.
Yeah.
So,
John.
yeah. And there was a moment where, you know, he's running and he runs past his nephews and he says, all day, baby.
Yeah. Also, I did notice the stunt double here.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
doing the flips.
Yeah, me too. It was a bit hard not to notice.
I was like, that's not your face.
You see the nephew tracing the star.
Yeah.
And that actually, when I watched the episode, that was probably one of the other moments that made me feel choked up a little bit, because this was Sam reclaiming the shield. It's no longer the symbol of the blonde guy. He's taking it and making it his own. And to have his nephew trace the shield and look up at him with pride, it made me go, now you're a symbol for this kid. The people that weren't being represented before. Now you're representing them. You're going to do this, and it's going to be you. It's going to be Sam Wilson, Captain America.
Yeah.
And yeah, that made me like go, I do want you to be Captain America. Like, if I wasn't sure before, I'm definitely sure now.
To that kid, it's mainly Captain America's my uncle. But he knows there's going to be plenty more kids that look at this and go, I can be that one day.
Exactly. I mean, even having that kid before, the one that called him Black Falcon, the fact that there are kids that are so proud of having a black man that they can look up to, that's a hero, is so important because they're being represented. And can you imagine what that would mean to have a Captain America? Obviously, there'll be idiots that hate it. But screw those people. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's such an important thing for young people. And I love that they're showing that. Now we're back to Carly.
In the big NYC.
Yes. Again, no disguise or anything. I said this to Harva. I was like, excuse me, like you're all over the news. There was even a police noise in a car.
Yeah,
I thought, are we going to hear it? Or is anything going to happen? Nope. It's just. Okay, I'm not going to keep ranting about them, but you know where we stand with these bloody flag smashers.
We see who Sharon was talking to.
Yes, now we know it was Buttrock.
And he arrives with a case. It's filled with explosives, isn't it? Carly's like kind of made a deal as well with Buttrock. I guess it's part of Sharon's deal.
This made me think that Sharon is someone who has been talking to Carly.
Yes. Sharon's probably her voice in Madripoor. Or, you know, the head of the Flag Smashers or something.
Yeah, I mean, we just better find out in the next episode.
Oh my God. I want Carly not to deliver on her promise and for Buttrock to get rid of the Flag Smashers.
It'd be really nice if Buttrock killed her in the end. We've seen him be strong. He's fought Steve Rogers in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, little girl. This is like the one time I don't give a crap about the girl. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Get rid of her.
Carly's all like full on villain mode now. And I wanted to slap her so hard. I was like, where's Bucky's arm?
Yeah, literally just take it off and use it and put it back on.
Yeah, and she says, tonight with her accent, tonight we go to battle.
That was actually not bad.
Oh, really? Oh my God, I don't want to sound like her.
The one time you do an accent and you're like, I don't want it to sound like that.
But at least I know if I got a red wig, I could probably do her. Not that way. Anyway, well, now we're getting to the end. The news on TV is talking about the vote because Carly mentions we're going to stop the vote, doesn't she? In New York, where the GRC, I'll do it in the news voice. In New York, where the GRC is voting on the controversial Patch Act, which would move upwards of 20 million refugees back home to their countries of origin. Sam is watching it. Now we know that it's him watching it on TV. Torres calls Sam and tells him that there's been a ping. Basically, wherever there's been a ping, there's been an attack. Mm-hmm. So today, there's been a ping in New York. And because Sam's already watching TV, he already knows.
It's about to go down.
Yeah. So he just kind of thanks him and says, I'll take it from here.
Yeah, he literally cuts him off because no time like the present.
And then we go to New York. The dickhead senator. I don't like him. He stripped John of his title, but he does seem like a douche.
This is the same guy.
I think so. I think it's the same one that told Sam he made the best choice for not.
He's still listed on IMDb as government official.
Maybe he's the power broker. I don't bloody know.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, GRC were with the vaccine, so why not?
Exactly.
He's saying, do we need to even bother with a vote? And there's people that are against it, whatever. And, there was someone saying we can't round up everybody like cattle. So there's people that are saying it's ethically wrong to do whatever they are planning to do. But the senator just kind of wants to get things moving. He's not a good guy. I don't think he's a good guy.
No, I don't like the cut of his jib.
But you thought the same as me, I'm sure. Obviously, the Flag Smashers have infiltrated it because they got plans. Yeah. And one of them, and this is how you know, because one of them goes up to another one and goes, "One world, one people," which to me was very Hail Hydra.
It was. It was very Hail Hydra. And did I not say in the previous episode, there's a lot of similarity between the Red Skull and Carly?
Yeah.
There's definitely similarities in values anyway. Not necessarily of movements, but values there are.
Yeah. So the lights go off, the red lights go on, screens are scrambled, they don't know what's happening, we don't know what's happening. And then we go back. We recognise that it's Sam's bed because we've gotten used to seeing that duvet cover now. The case from Wakanda is on it, Sam presses the button to open it, and we don't get to see what's in it. But it definitely, whatever it is, makes Sam...
Ooh. This makes it real.
Yeah, and... I mean, the case design does kind of look wingish, but I'm assuming it's going to be the whole shebang.
I think it's going to be the whole outfit.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the episode ends, so we don't get to see what's in the case.
No.
And then we get the mid-credit scene, which is, you hear hammering, which immediately made me at that point think of the ending of Endgame, where you could hear Iron Man
making a suit.
But then I went, oh no, it's John Walker. So it felt a bit more like I said to you, Freddie at the beginning of Nightmare on Elm Street making his gloves. Yes. I was like, oh, so it's more that version.
I'm assuming that was his Medals of Honor.
Yeah, that was his Medal of Honor that is attached to it.
And as much as, we've ranted enough, so I'm not going to repeat myself here. And we've also said, there were significant moments in this episode that were really lovely, really well done, well shot, and good for the narrative. But I am so worried about everything that they've left now for the final episode.
I know, because now, we don't know what they're keeping for this show and what they're going to just introduce for later. So the fact that they've brought in Valentina, is that are we going to see payoff for it in the finale? Or is that just introducing it so we'll know about it later? I don't know. And that's a problem because I don't know what I want them to include and what they're not to include, to be honest. I do want answers,
it's just got to be written really well.
Yeah, and I feel like it should be feature length. I feel like it needs to be 90 minutes. Oh, I did have this note. It's not anything that important, but Sam, in the comics, on his first adventure as Captain America, his first fight, or one of his first fights, was with Butterrock, actually.
Interesting. So that's it, guys. One more episode. For them, I mean, not for us. I can't believe it. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that button right now to know when our newest episodes will be available.
We are on all good platforms, and for more information, visit our site geeklyrecap.weebly.com. There you can sign up to a weekly newsletter and unlock bonus content too.
You can also tweet us directly and find us on Instagram and Facebook at Geekly Recap Pod. We love hearing from you, whether they're comments, predictions, and polls, so thank you. Now more than ever though, how are you really feeling?
Maybe you thought the penultimate episode had to be this way. Is John finally the real villain? Is Sharon the actual power broker? Or is she manipulating everyone, Flag Smashers included? Or is this series now way over their heads? What is in store for the finale and beyond? Join us next week on Geekly Recap for the last episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
See ya, pals.